Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this afternoon. In today's episode, just a bit of a general chit chat leading up now to our first qualifying final, which everything has been announced by the AFL. So we'll talk about that on the show. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Okay, so the AFL has come out today and they have announced finally the qualifying final fixtures between Adelaide and Collingwood and Geelong and Brisbane. Obviously, we're only going to talk about our game. Our game has been announced. It will be on Thursday, the 4th of September. So Thursday night, 4th of September, 7:30 Melbourne time, 7:10 Adelaide time, because for some reason they're on a half an hour difference than us, whatever. So that gives us basically a 12-day break now. This isn't going to be a full preview into the match. We're going to have probably some changes with Howe being injured, and we're going to have all the machinations and everything's going to be going crazy from there. But we give ourselves now a good 12-day break from our last game. So plenty of time for the dust to settle, plenty of time for Bo McCreary's foot, who got stomped on, to be okay. I do think the only change will be how for somebody else, unless anything else has happened over that time. I do want Mason Cox to come in. Do I think he's going to come in? It purely depends on how he trains this week. And I thought he was okay in the Twos game in a disappointing loss. It does beg the question, though, with the Twos being out and not obviously getting knocked out of the finals in that wild card game. What happens now for players like Mason Cox, Tom Mitchell, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Ed Allen, all these boys who are knocking down the door trying to get their foot into the side now at the pointy end of the season? Are they going to be able to get their spot in without playing an actual game of football when they don't get picked and having the opportunity to show their trade during this time? It just means they're going to have to train extra hard and put their hand up for selection and potentially rely on someone being a little bit underdone to squeeze in. That's a good problem to have in the sense of we've got a really fit list, apart from Howe being injured and Bobby Hill not being available. Obviously, the season-ending injuries are what they are, but from the list that's available, only 2 players aren't pretty much eligible for selection, albeit 2 important players in our cog, in our mix, in Jeremy Howe and obviously Bobby Hill, which you'd take a bullet for these guys to be in the actual side against Adelaide, but it's just not going to happen, and it's a bit unfortunate. But we are playing the Crows on Thursday, the 4th of September. So what does that mean for anybody who wants to get down to Collingwood training? Well, Collingwood have put on their socials, and thanks to Curtis Sofo Photography, who just doesn't let anybody down with his stuff. Amazing photos of training and stuff like that. Also like Jen's training buzz too, but he always puts down the training times on Instagram, and I have shared that today, and a few other content creators and stuff on Instagram have. So for those that haven't seen it, Collingwood is doing a full training on Wednesday, the 27th of August. That's in 2 days' time from when I'm filming this video. The training time will be 12:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. And then Friday, the 29th, they will be doing Friday the 29th, they will be doing a early session, 9:20 a.m. to 11 a.m. They will be their 2 main training sessions this week. Obviously, they'll go pretty hard because there's no game on this weekend. With that being said, these times are subject to change. They could come out earlier, they could come out later. They don't say anything. So if you do go, just bear that in mind, that they may not be there at those times, but that's the times that they've advertised. Usually they do go on those times, but if they do change, that's it is what it is. You can't do anything about that. The week after, leading into the Adelaide game, they usually will start the week fairly early. Now that we know that we're going to be playing on Thursday, everything gets sort of pushed ahead during the week. I believe they'll do a training session. Their main training session for that Thursday game will be on a Monday. That'll probably run for about an hour and a half. Really just to get the skills up and get ready, and then you'll have a captain's run. I believe the captain's run will be on Wednesday. Usually the captain's run is about 11:30, 11 o'clock-ish, around there. That'll go for about 45 minutes, and then pretty much that'll be on the Wednesday, the 3rd, and then they will then go pretty much that night or that afternoon. They'll fly off to Adelaide for the game. So that's pretty much the week leading up to the game on what's happening at the club. 12-day break, which is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, we're in the top 4. We got the double chance. How good's that? So obviously, just leading into the other side of the equation with the other sides there, we've got a big thank you to Port Adelaide for their efforts over this week, which I did say in my review video, which was fantastic, of the Melbourne game, driving home from the game, and then obviously hearing on the radio Port Adelaide getting the win against Gold Coast, which secures us the top 4. Last night, amazing game between Brisbane and Hawthorn. Hawthorn, personal opinion, I do think they were a little bit stiff with the decision that went against, I think it was Amon, I can't remember who it was, who hand passed the ball out of bounds. I think that was, I don't think that was deliberate. I think that was just a genuine skill error, but it is what it is. Brisbane getting the win, which means that we go to 4th to play Adelaide, and Brisbane will go 3rd, and they play obviously against Geelong in the other qualifying final. The big game though was obviously Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs. I tipped Fremantle, but as an upset, I didn't think they were going to win, so I'll take it, I'll claim it, who cares? But the Dogs pretty stiff throughout the season with injuries and stuff, but they just can't win the big ones that they need to, and they're going to end up finishing 9th. Gold Coast will beat Essendon on Wednesday, and that's the game now that, thank God, the AFL's come out and given the top 4 their fixtures for the first week of the finals. I think it would have been very unfair to make them wait until Wednesday. That would have meant those top 4 clubs who earned the right to finish in the top 4 regardless of what people think. That's the way it happened. They obviously get the choice to, they should have the right to know when they're playing, so they can get all their training schedules, their flights, their accommodation, their venues of training if they do have a run. They've got to get everything sorted out. And they've got time now to do it, which thank God the AFL came out. Do I agree with Collingwood playing on a Thursday night? No, I would have loved it to play on a Friday or Saturday. I think the final should have started on the Thursday between Geelong and Brisbane at the home of footy at the MCG. I think that would have been a great way to kick off the final series. But nevertheless, Collingwood make the money, ladies and gentlemen. So they're going to put us on the prime time on the Thursday night slot. That's just the way that it is, and you can't do any ifs or buts about that. That's just, we are the bank to the AFL regardless of where we play. I do think though, having the game on a Thursday night, this is a personal opinion, I do think the game being played on a Thursday night is going to restrict some fans going there. I was contemplating heading up if it was either a Friday or a Saturday, but just with work and stuff like that, and life, kids, family, other obligations and stuff like that, it's just physically impossible to get out there on a Thursday for the amount of money that the airfares are probably punching out now, which I haven't had a look, but from the last night when I did look, tickets were sitting at about $350 return flight. I think now that the AFL's announced the time, they would be jacking them right up. I remember a couple of years ago, just off topic for a second, when I went to gather around flights literally in one day, out the next. In on the Friday night, we played the Saturday, left the Sunday morning or whatever it was, and the flights were about $660. So it's crazy, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We can't do anything about that. So as I was saying, the game between Fremantle and Western Bulldogs was massive. I tipped the Dockers. However, I didn't think they were going to win. They got up. Huge. Means Western Bulldogs now are sitting in 8th in absolute limbo. but I think it's safe to say that they can probably have their Mad Monday today if they really wanted to. I think the Gold Coast are going to pants Essendon. But I mean, just imagine if Essendon got up, which is not going to happen. And if it happens, I know people are going to rewatch this video and they're going to be like, they got up. But you don't think they're going to win either. Let's be real. I think the Gold Coast are going to do what they need to do against Essendon. They'll probably move into 7th, which then drops Hawthorn down to 8th. Believe it or not, Hawthorn are at 8. I think they're probably the best ever team to finish in 8th spot. They're very stiff not to be making the top 4 or even 5th to get a home final. So it does mean that they fall under the Collingwood Adelaide bracket for whoever loses. So it'll be GWS most likely against Hawthorn, and then obviously Fremantle versus the Gold Coast. So that means the winner out of GWS and Hawthorn will play the loser out of Collingwood and Adelaide, which I don't want to face Hawthorn, let's be real, after what happened, a few weeks ago. I really do think that Collingwood have a decent chance against Adelaide, but we'll save that for the preview. This game now is on Wednesday night is massive. I don't like the fact that they've scheduled the Gold Coast Essendon game, middle of the week. I would have rather have watched the Legends game this week and just relaxed and not worried about it, and just to fill that void in. I mean, it's good from a football fan perspective that there is a game. It's good for Collingwood that we've got the week off. But the AFL just needs to use their brains a bit. They could have chucked this game in the bye week, because then we would have already had the season finished. The season is finished, and we have this absolute crucial game that needs to be played. I just wish that Essendon had won a few more games during the season, because it would have been even funnier if Essendon actually needed to win to make the finals. But that's just not the case here. That's all I've got time for today. Just a bit of a general update. But the big announcement is we are playing against the Adelaide Crows on the 4th of September. It's a Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Melbourne time, 7:10 Adelaide time. If you're going, get your flights now. If you're not, I don't know if I'm going to do a live stream yet or where I'm going to be, but that'll be announced later. The other thing is tomorrow we have the fan forum, which is going to be on the YouTube channel. It starts at 8:30. It's the fan cams edition of the fan forum. So everybody jump on. The link will be posted up in the chat via StreamYard. Everybody click it, get on. We can have a chat where we'll do a little review of the Melbourne game. We can talk about our season. We can talk about anything you like. That'll be on at 8:30. It'll go for maybe an hour, hour and a half tomorrow night, but it's going to be huge. So make sure you jump on. Make sure you drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.